A pleasant morning it is to you here in the nation. I am Sela Elisha Dasham, and with me in the studio is Toso. Yesterday I was so excited, because I said with the issues that are happening and eve to the election, this human angle that happened in Plateau State, just throughout tricycle owners, yes, and motorcycle, and then I think about 2 tricycles were discovered and 1 motorcycle, and then the story, or according to him, he would just after bringing them to his house, kill them, then throw their body into the soccer way. Very disgusting. The sight is not something you should behold. I know I'm sorry to our viewers that are having people who can't withstand this, but we need to bring out things like this for us to know that we need to be very careful, and that a lot of things are happening in the society, and you should be careful of everywhere you go. This will bring to mind, I know that each tricycle is being registered. So, and if not for the suspicious movement of people, at least he will have gotten away with it. And it's sad because the age, just 31-year-old, and the whole thing, just give you a chill in your body and wonder, why are people this heartless to this point?
Sele, a 31-year-old man or a guy, because it's a family man, can't channel that energy, that strength into doing things that are productive to himself and even to his country, even to his family. This is really sad, and it's disgusting, by the way, concerning all these things that is happening. No wonder you see that even tricycle owners now, when you try to charter them to your area, they said, I won't go. If it's beyond the road, I won't go inside because of what is happening. And you can see that this Samson Eze, he can lure them that he wants to take charter, give them some kind of appealing amount, and they want to do it because I want to make yes, I want to make money. I have to feed my family. And even those people that were killed, they are family men. The 2 men that were killed, they are family men. Okay, I need to make money for myself, make money for my family. And you see that they'll go there and they are being killed. And you can imagine that even the house where they are being buried, where they are being thrown inside the soccer, it's not even his house. He kept his family in a different place, unknown to the wife what he is doing, the act he's involving himself into. This is inhumanity of man to his fellow man. This is wickedness at display. Even in November 2021, we had issue like this where tricycle owner Ibrahim Raymond, he was killed and he was buried also. So you can see things like this are happening, and we have, thank God why that we have this issue where the PT number on different tricycles are being registered. So you can see that this is easy for your tricycle to be tracked. Exactly. Because they are registered under the government. So anything, if there any strange movement, when you have this number, they can track this tricycle. So this is to tricycle owners, try to register your tricycle with the PT number so that they can be tracked in case of things like this happening. And thank God for the Joint Task Force in Plateau State, that are looking out for ways they can curb all this insecurity, curb all these issues of killings that are happening, because this is really sad, Sele. Look, people go out to fend for themselves, find their daily bread, and you go meet up with people like this. It's really sad that youths are even the ones doing all these things. What's happening to your dignity in labor? People don't want to work any longer. They see that people who go for the 8 to 5, they're just suffering themselves. You want the flamboyant life. You want a life where you just sleep all through the day and you have money to spend. Where is that done, Sele? You sleep all day without working, and you want to spend money. So you need the quick money. This is a result of wanting quick money. We had issue of Moses Oko, 20-year-old boy, in the quest for quick money, where he killed his girlfriend. And now look at issue of a 31-year-old man in the quest for quick money. There's no dignity in labor again. People don't want to work with their hands. People just want quick money. I want to enjoy my life. I want to be among the big boys in the streets. I want to be among the big boys in the states, and I don't want to work. I want to spend money. Seriously, it is really sad. It's really sad. We just hope that all these people, they should not be kept in the prison going for any trial or anything. Then immediate kill. They should just kill these people.
That's why I really applaud the Kano State government, because looking at the Hanifa Abubakar that was murdered by her proprietor, they said the consequences for that is he has to be killed. And I pray that actually the law will take its course. Our justice system has to function. You can't say that you admire the beauty and then you want to ignore the pressure. every beauty comes with pressure, so you have to go through that process, because nothing comes easy in this life.
Definitely.
Yes, let's move on to the papers, and we shall be starting with the first one, which is the New Telegram. Tosi.
Yes, the New Telegraph newspaper. Flight delay. Nigerians protest at Istanbul airport, and oil hits $90 on strong fundamentals. With details in page 5, and reps to probe on claimed funds in banks, infrastructure by CBN. Rivers missing aircraft documented in handover notes, and this is coming from a commissioner. UK resumes work, study visa application processing in Nigeria, and IMF is saying Nigerians' debt to GDP remains relatively low. And the big story, will engage 2023 will engage, not endorse presidential candidate. Coming from ACF, the writer says plans meeting with Afenifere Ohanaeze to douse tension. Urges northern businessmen to establish banks, and Igbo are prepared for presidency. This is coming from Ohanaeze Ndibo. Saraki declares ambition via Facebook. Federal Executive Council approves 3 trillion naira for fuel subsidy, and this is under the 2022 budget amendment. The rider reverse EFCC NFIU's right to 10% of own revenue, and government labor accuse NNPC of hidden agenda, as FIME demands audit of agencies' accounts. Study ties chemicals in plastic to weight gain. And we have a picture story here where court bars federal government from unlawful deduction from Federation Fund own agency. Court bars federal government from unlawful deduction from Federation accounts to fund own agencies. Orders refund to Rivers State its victory for democracy. Details of this story can be found in page 4 and 29 of the New Telegraph newspaper. And Sele, you know, starting from the beginning of this week, we've been having issues with the Fed and the fuel subsidy removal, and now we can see that the federal government is looking at ways they can, if the FEC can approve 3 trillion naira. And you know that when you look at the budget for 2023, this money is not included in the budget. So you can see that this is another opportunity again, another way where they want to borrow money. And now, you know, yesterday we had it on our papers where we're talking about the issue of fuel subsidy, if it can be postponed to the next 18 months. And if you understand that the next election, that's the general election, it will come on February 18th, 2023, and you know that they have less than 18 months to assume for this position of president and even position of governorship. So looking at this money that they want to borrow, this 3 trillion naira, which is not even inclusive in the budget, you see that it's going to affect human, it's going to affect even the common man, to the extent that even opportunities, we won't have opportunities, because opportunities for work are not provided, and even social amenities are not provided for the masses. And now you see that this is even going to affect the tax, because the tax will increase, and even if the subsidy is removed, you know that poverty will increase. And it's not just affecting those people that are borrowing this money alone, it's affecting the common man the more, because when you talk about the social amenities, the lights, water, good roads, we don't have it in our country. Then you look at issue of this money, another money that will be borrowed. Yes, we borrowed on people. Who will pay this money? Because when you talk about this, they will not be in that position any longer. Who will borrow? You can see that this is another trap for the next president that will assume that position. It is a trap, Sele, because looking at the next person that assume that position, he will start from paying debts. Not looking at, okay, the project I need to do, things I need to, infrastructure I need to do, what I need to do. You have to start paying those debts, because definitely if you go to borrow, there's a specific time for you to pay that amount you've borrowed. So he will narrow his attention and channel all his attention to paying of debt. He can't do anything, and later on, they will still be the same people that will come up with placard and say, he's not doing the right thing he's supposed to do. You can see that all these things, so like, we need to be wise as Nigerians. Definitely, there's no president that wants the stigma or the name on him that while he was on position, he inflicted pains on his people, on his followers. So definitely he's trying to look out for ways he can push that burden to the next president. And now looking at the Labour Congress, they spoke to the federal government on ways they can build more refineries in our country. Before you can remove the subsidy, refineries should be built. We had in Rivers State where illegal refineries are built in River State. For what, Sele? We need refineries in our country. If we have refineries, definitely our crude oil will be refined in our country. It will be taken to other countries for it to be refined and sent back to our country. When you look at countries under OPEC, Nigeria is the only country that take his or her crude to other countries to be refined. It is a slap on our face. It is a shameful. It is a shameful thing, exactly. For us to take our crude to other countries to be refined. Why can't we have those things that we need to refine our crude in our own country? We have all it takes, Sele.
If we have all it takes, then the question here will be: we have graduates, right, that study petrochemical engineering. The refineries are not working. What do you expect them to do? Unemployment, number one. And just like you've seen, if you're going to say we're going to remove the subsidy, because I know the excuse always will be that other countries are paying 500 naira per litre. Check the countries you're comparing us with. They have good roads. They don't suffer for one or two things. And then I laugh at any administration when I hear when the people are complaining, and then you see that we constructed roads, we made water. That is your responsibility. I always say it without any shame. That it's just like a father paying the school fees and you expect your kids to say thank you. That is your responsibility. When you fail, that means it's other nations that will laugh at you. So don't come here and tell us that you built roads, there are schools. Those are basic amenities that every citizen should enjoy. And the issue of the 3 trillion naira that they're saying they're going to borrow, just like you say, it's a slap on our face that we're the only country in OPEC. And they boil it down to the fact that Russia and Ukraine are having an issue presently, and because we know that Russia is one of the when it comes to exporters of oil, Russia is one of the countries. I mean, we are depending on Russia, even though US are saying they won't allow that to happen. So this is a call that the government should sit down and say, what can we do? How can our refineries start functioning so that those graduates that are there, apart from the fact that the masses will enjoy it, we reduce the unemployment on our youths. So I think it's something we do. Just like someone would say, the NSAS has really opened the eyes of youths. This is the right time that you need to go out there, get your PVC and do the right thing. We can't just complain on social media because there's no there's no voting unit on social media. The right thing you need to do now is to go out there and vote if you want to see the change that we want.
Yes, Sele, with the change, and it begins with us. I have a cousin who studied petrochemical engineering. Sele, he's in the classroom as I am talking. That is where he ended up in the classroom. Why do we go to study all these things when we can't even work in the refineries and even those sectors that we are supposed to work there in? So there's something needs to be done. It is really a slap on our face for us to take our oil, our crude to other countries. I think it's high time they reject all those things so that for our eyes to be open, they will know that yes, we need refineries. If we can have major refineries, major industries, that will help us. Because looking at the amount we even take to export our oil, our crude to other countries for it to be refined, so it's a huge amount. What if we have those refineries in our country, in our own country, and even other countries coming to refine theirs? You know that it will help our GDP. It will help us in growth. It will help us. It will even boost our country.
We get to direct the money to other aspects, not just oil.
We should continue to learn from positive things. We should continue to learn from other countries. Going to other countries for different summits, going to other countries for different meetings. It's not just to go there and sit down. It's not just to go there and discuss. Try to see, try to learn from those countries. Learn how they are helping, how they are improving themselves. We borrow money from other countries. How do they generate those income that they are even able to borrow us as a country? Let us learn from all those positive things. It will help us in our country. And we should channel our attention. This is time for youth to channel their attention in the right thing. Channel your attention in the right and help yourself. Now we see the issue of politics coming at play, where you see thugs. We had issue where thugs were intercepted in a state in our country here with ammunitions. We keep on talking even on this channel where we say they should not avail themselves to be used as thugs, because your life is at risk. Your family are at risk. That stigma, yes, they caught his or her child as a thug with ammunition. These people, their children, if it's really good and if it's a good business, why not give your child the ammunition to
and
go
most of the people that employ those thugs don't even use their family members, so why don't they use it? Well, let's move to the next paper, which is the national economy, and the first story here is oil price hit $90 PB, first time since 2014, with the rider as NMPC present 3 trillion naira subsidy to 2022 to the Federal Executive Committee. And the big story here say 8 years after 46 million bank accounts still without PVN, with the rider reps form over the federal government 1.2 trillion naira unremitted funds in banks since 2016. And this is really a call to that, just like we're talking about corruption. And I think since 2014, the issue of PVN. So I think this is a call to everybody. Make sure you have your PVN. With that, you know, the government will be able to trace all these fraudulence we're having here and there, and then to open the doors to corruption and all those people that have been stealing, you know, the nation's money. I think when this PVN is being, you know, when everything is done well, then we'll be able to trace them and know the way out of things in this country. Next story here, money supply increased by 13.77% in December 2021. This is coming from the CBN. And the last story I'll be taking from this paper says stock market capitalization hit 25 trillion naira. And detail of that can be found on page 5. If you're interested in any of the story, just check the national economy. You can read more on that.
And moving to this day newspaper, it says again, Rivers floors federal government as court declares deduction from Fed account to fund its agencies and it is unconstitutional. Orders refund to states and it's victory for democracy, says Wike. And here, OPEC expected to continue with additional 400,000 BPD and oil price hit $90. Details can be found in page 8 of this day newspaper. Sanwo-Olu flags off Ojota Opebi Link Bridge project 20 years after conception. And Soludo, as governor, will drive Innocent's vehicle as official car. Says no economy to be held for swearing in. You can see promises are coming up now. You know, we have this Innocent card, made in Nigeria cars, and now we are having hearing Soludo, who is aspiring for the position of a governor. He's saying when he becomes governor, he will drive the Innocent vehicle that is patronizing made in Nigeria project. You know, even the present administration here, we have this change begins with you, where you need to patronize your made in Nigeria product. How many of our politicians, how many of our ministers, how many of our House of Reps member are patronizing what is made in our country? How many of them eat the local rice, Sele? This is a question for them. How many of you patronize what is made in the country? This is not time for us to have all these things on our papers talking about where we will patronize what is made, and when you assume that power, you start ordering your cars from abroad. This is all these things should not carry our attentions as Nigerians. It should not make us feel okay, happy. Yes, when he assumed that power, he's going to patronize what is made in this country. We are grown past all these things, Sele. We need someone who will attest and someone who will stand for what he is supposed to do. We have so many things that need to be done. Not all the stories coming up and down. We need to shine our eyes. I keep on saying, shine your eyes. All these things should not carry our attention. All these things should not make us happy. Just as we said, a father paying his child's school fees and you expect the child to say thank you. Definitely for courtesy, you have to say thank you. But it's part of what you are supposed to do. So we should not be carried away by all these things, Sele. And here the big story says, cash strapped. Federal government approves 3 trillion naira, which is 17.5% of 2022 budget to sustain subsidy. The rider to send supplementary appropriation to National Assembly mandates Finance Ministry to reconcile payment with NNPC. NLC knocks government over 18 months timeline. And Ipman wants dilapidated refineries fixed. And Fayemi is saying only 8 states benefiting from subsidy. What happened to the remaining states? If it's only 8 states out of the states, we have 36 states we have in our country, yes, plus the FCT. What's happening to the other states? If it's only 8 states that is benefiting from this subsidy, then you can see issue of documentation, accountability. We don't have all the states as a country.
That's the issue.
We don't audit. I wonder what the office of the Auditor General is meant for. We don't audit, and we have different agencies that said for long they've not been audited. That's why you can see that they just use the funds anyhow,
and they have displacement of priority.
Yes, they use the money like it's just their personal money because they are not audited. But when you know that you are audited, what you use those money for are being checkmated time to time. Definitely you will be at best. You will want to use the money the right way, but you know that the Auditor General will not even come. Those things, your organization is not, your department is not even audited. So you just use the money anyhow, because what will happen to only 8 states that are the ones benefiting from subsidy out of the 36 states we have in our country? You can see that we are the ones causing the problem for ourselves. And the last story here on 2023, Saraki hints at president's bid as Okorocha declares intention to run. Details can be found in page 50, and we still have 2 picture stories on this day newspaper. Do well to visit the newspaper to get stories that interest you. That's all for this day.
All right, moving on to the leadership newspaper. The first story here: federal government reverses EFCC and FIU's retention of 10% recovered loot. Detail of that can be found on page 6 of the leadership. Next story: NEDC budget $6.7 billion for rebuilding of the Northeast. And the big story here: fuel subsidy hit turns on NMPC as governors, the National Labour Congress, query consumption figures with the rider. Governors want 411 naira per price, says 3 trillion naira subsidy not sensible. Federal government have wasted $10 billion on refineries rehabilitation. This is coming from Labour. And the next story here we have is Ulu of Worry meets the President Muhammadu Buhari over the NDDC board for ports. Next story: 2023. Stop endorsing aspirant. This ACF wants members. And we have other picture stories still on the leadership paper. If any of the stories of interest, you just grab the paper and you can read details of that.
Thank you, Celia. Moving to Daily Independent on 2022. BC Kolawole wins Ekiti PDP Buba primaries. The rider 183,000 APC members to elect Guba candidates today. And court declares deduction from Federation account for Police Trust Fund, which is unconstitutional. Orders federal government to refund Rivers. And the big story: federal government to increase borrowings to fund 3 trillion naira 18-month subsidy bill. The rider to ask National Assembly for amendments to Fiscal Framework 2022 budgets. Amend PIA to accommodate 18-month subsidy from 6 months. And Nigeria records 26 Lassa fever deaths, 115 cases this year. Sanwo-Olu flags off road projects to link Ojota Ipebi link bridges. And APC has not zoned presidential tickets, others, says Buni. Still on 2023, elections will push away foreign portfolio investors, and details can be found in page 7. And still on constitution review, reps seek creation of 111 additional National Assembly seats for women, recommend 6 more in state assembly, and reject state police despite rising insecurity. Deny immunity for Senate President, Reps, Speaker, and others. Downside: NNPC assures insufficient fuel subsidy as scarcity hits Abuja. Details can be found in page 7. And here again we still have group asks Senate to reject INEC nominee, says she's APC member. And that's all for the Daily Independent.
Yeah, let's move on now to the Punch newspaper. Power tariff shortfalls hit 2.4 trillion naira in 6 years. This is the federal government report. Next story, petrol landing cost rises to 282 naira per liter. The oil hit $90. Deduction from FAAC to police fund illegal, court tells federal government. Tinubu graduated from our school in South Chicago University. Detail of that can be found on page 9 of the Punch newspaper. Other stories still on the Punch. Senate okays bill empowering federal government to seize illegal acquired assets will do kicks, and I think is the right step in the right direction. Who only screen presidential candidates won't endorse any. And this story has been making the headline on every of our paper. Governors NLC doubts fuel consumption, and MPC demands 3 trillion naira for subsidy. And the writer under that story, there's a lot of fraud in consumption and distribution figures. This is Fire Me. Rep raises 28-member panel to probe daily fuel consumption refineries. Nigerian risks bankruptcy as fuel subsidy continues, expert warned the federal government. And the picture story here, we can see it's and the write-up there is a PDP primaries, 150 political talks arrested, rises tension, fire C candidate, cleares government ticket. I know Tosi, we've been talking about what it means for you to use your hand and walk. But here people's fathers, brothers, uncles, it's a sad one that people have made themselves available to the talks. I don't know if we've not learned anything for the past 8 years in this country with the hardship that is going on and lots of things. Is that not an eye-opener for us to open up and do the right thing? Why surrender yourself to be a talk? Why surrender yourself to be an ambassador of destruction and bringing pain on people? Here we can see some of the ammunitions that were seized, and here they are. So what will be their excuse for whatsoever reason? It's painful when people don't know that they need to do the right thing. I don't know for how long, whether people's head will be, possibly there'll be surgery, and then maybe people will need to know that you need to do the right thing. So I think it's high time that we really rise up and do the right thing. The answer, as I've said, is an eye-opener to youth. We need to engage ourselves in politics, but in the positive way, not in the negative way. Don't be here to be those that snatch ballot boxes and make sure they bring up destruction here and there, so you not distract people's attention. We need to do the right thing in this country.
Yes, Sele, because of the way politics have turned to become a do or die affair. That's why we don't have free and fair election any longer. Before an election can take place, you see politicians having thugs behind them, and you can see ammunitions and rough magazines that were recovered from these people in a country where we have issues where the police are having missing ammunitions. How did these people get all this ammunitions that they cannot be audited on how these ammunitions in armory got missing? Over 178 ammunitions got missing just like that. There's nothing to say about it. There's no way the ammunitions can be recovered, and now we are seeing thugs. Prior to election, we are seeing thugs with ammunitions. How did they get all these ammunitions? How, Sele? Now we even have our military talking about that they don't have the firearms to fight insecurity, and we are seeing politicians giving their thugs ammunitions to protect them, ammunitions to fight opponents, ammunitions to kill people, casting on what will happen. You see shooting sporadically, even in ballot in polling booths. Because of what? Because I want to be the winner. By fire, by force. You can see all these things that are happening. How can we say that we can put our hands boldly on our chest and say, definitely this is the person who voted for, this is the person who voted for. You should receive it with good faith, even if you are not the one that is being voted for. But you see that by fire, by force, you want to be the one on power. And even if you assume that position, you're not going to do because of the selfish interest, because of greed, because of the intentions you have. You want to just amass wealth. That is why you see all these people, politicians, having talks behind them. I keep on saying, if you want to have thugs, you have children. Why won't you carry your children behind you to serve as thugs? Why carry children of innocent people? Because these thugs, they might be killed even in
so
this
cover up for.
Definitely they will be killed, and so parents will not even be visited to even greet for the death of their loved ones. Parents will not be, they won't go and visit these parents. People will be killed. Why? Because, and how much will they pay them? Some people will say 500 naira, some people will say 1,000. Why? This is, we keep on saying,
yes,
we keep on saying, why risk your life to be political thugs? I keep on using this example where I saw a video in Ghana where they were giving them rice. They were giving them so many things. They were throwing this rice back. They said they don't want it. They want good job opportunities. They want good road. They want electricity. They want water. I wish Nigerians, I wish the youth in Nigeria can be, yes, we can open our eyes, we can be wise enough to know what we want. And we are not begging them to give us all these things. This is our right. This is what they are supposed to provide us with. When they provide all these things for us, you don't say, oh no, he did this. And no, it's not his money, it's your tax. It's your tax that is using to provide all these things. And what is difficult for you to say, this is what you want. Using youths as thug is not just the way. If only people can say no, and they won't be used as thugs, because now these thugs have been arrested. Even if they try to say who is behind them, you see covering up. It will be covered up, and they might be killed, they might be released. We don't know. They don't know their fate. We don't also know their fate. Something needs to be done about it. This time for youth to shine their eyes and know the right thing. They should stand by the right thing. Know your right, because people don't know their right. That's why they are being used anyhow. If you know your right, you stand by your right. Definitely your right will be provided. But you don't know your right. When they give you water, you say thank you. This man is a good man. It is your right. He's providing your rights for you. So the time it's better off we know our rights, we stand by our rights. If you know your rights and you stand by your rights, you won't be used by all those people, because definitely you don't know your fate. They thought they will go for a fruitful operation, and now they are being caught. You don't know your rights. If you'll be released or you will be killed even at this process.
Yes, other stories still on the Punch paper. Accurate Dodo alleges massive payroll fraud vows sanction against corporates. Inspector killing fighting herdsmen attackers, 2 bandits dead in Ogun forest. Overwhelming majority of Igbo don't believe in secession, and this is coming from Ohaneze, and that's all from the Punch newspaper. But before we go further, we shall be taking a short break, and when we come back, we shall open the phone line so you can send your call in and give us your contribution on what you think, how the way forward we can go as a nation. Remain blessed. We'll be back.
Ụmụnna ndị Igbo, ana m agwa unu okwu a site n'ike nke Chineke. Ọnụ ụlọ anya na ọnwa abụọ nke dị n'ihu, anyị na-aga inwe vote ịhọpụta ndị gị president, onye gị president, ndị senate, ndị House of Representatives, governors, na ndị elekọta iwu na steeti. Biko anyị na-arịọ unu si onye ọbụla pụta n'igwe. Ọ bụrụ ma ịnweta bụ ihe a na-akpọ voters card, gaa ebe ahụ idenyere aha gị, jụọ ha ga-ewepụta ya. Anyị wepụtara akwụkwọ a do were eche ka ndị mmadụ bịa were ya. Ọtụtụ ọnụọgụgụ dị ndị na-abịa bịa were nke ha. Anyị chọrọ ịhọpụta onye gị leta ndị Igbo anya. Anyị chọrọ ịhọpụta onye gị leta Nigeria anya. Anyị chọrọ ịhọpụta onye gị mee ụmụ anyị enweta ọrụ. Anyị chọrọ ịhọpụta onye gị mee ka okwu Chineke nke anyị na-efe wee na-aga n'ihu. Onye biri ọ dị chiki chọrọ ikpe ga-ekpewu ya. Ọ bụghị mmadụ chọọ ikpe chiki ya gị sị ha ọ gaghị ikpe ha. Anyị chọkwara onye gị mee inwe ihe a na-akpọ property, maọbụ ala, maọbụ ụlọ, maọbụ ihe ọzọ, ahapụrụ gị ya ga-ewere ya mee ihe. Ọ bụghị mmadụ bịa ya ewere ike were egbere mma bibịa naraghị ala gị sa ya ọ chọrọ iji hụ ịzụ anụmanụ. A na-eme ya otu ahụ. Ọ na ị nwere ihe ị na-eme ịchọrọ ịzụ anụmanụ, gị ga-azụrụ ala ebe ị ga-anọ zụọ ha. Ọ wụghị hafụ anụ ụlọ gị ya na-atabuso eke ndị ọzọ. Akụ ọ dịka karịrị bịa. Biko ụmụnna m, ana m arịọ unu jisie ike gaa tụọ vootu ka anyị họpụta ndị ga-eme ka ala Naịjirịa dere mma, dere duu dịka ọ dịla mbụ. Ana m ekele unu mgbe unu na-eme ka onye nwe gọzie unu n'aha Jizọs. Amen.
I'm appealing to all Christians all over the country and generality of the citizenship that you should come out and vote with your PVC. That's the power you have, because government is a social contract between the government and the governed, and you have that power to change the situation. to your taste. If you don't come, then it means you have subjected yourself to whatever rules whosoever is ruling over you. Therefore, as the Bible says, God knows He installed kings and all those who are in authority. You have the privilege to exercise your civil rights. I pray that you take this seriously as ECWA, as a denomination, provide this avenue to encouraging you to come out and vote. God bless you as you obey. Thank you.
Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, it's from the Dailies, and as I said, I have time. Well, our phone lines are open. We are live on YouTube and also on Facebook, so you can watch us live right now. So before we went on break, we're still looking at some of the stories making the headlines from our papers, and we shall be moving on to the next paper, Tosi, which is the Guardian newspaper.
Yes, for the Guardian newspaper, Rivers floors federal government over police trust fund deduction. Wike says it's victory for democracy. Governors Labour kick as NNPC present 3 trillion naira subsidy bill to Federal Executive Council. The rider NGF Labour leaders seek forensic probe of NNPC's figure. Alleged fraud in consumption, distribution numbers, and Nigeria will pay price of more borrowings. Presidency confirms OPS concern. Coming from Ekiti State, Fayoshe's anointed candidate Kolawole wins PDP primaries. Reps reject immunity for Senate President, Speaker, and others. Ondo government, PDP disagrees over bulletproof cars as Assembly bemoans lack of funds. And those are all the stories on the Guardian newspaper.
Moving on now to the next paper, which is the Voice of Liberty. And the first story here says, AGF Malami asks judiciary to open its budget for scrutiny. Again, federal government, again, FCT primary school teachers embark on indefinite strike. And this is a sad one looking at the educational sector. I think the government should look at what they can do about that. This is from the capital. UK resumes work-study visa application processing in Nigeria. Tinubu, Meati Adla makes U-turn, says we did not endorse any presidential aspirants. Next story here, Constitution Amendment. Reps Committee rejects immunity clause for Senate President. Reps Speaker. Yield to Buhari rejects state police. Other stories still from the Voice of Liberty. Federal government deduction from Federation account to fund police illegal, court declares. Next one, illegal ritual. Imo woman escape after her son attacks, stabs her with knife. Gunmen kidnap Jonathan's cousin in Bayelsa. And that is all from the Voice of Liberty.
Thank you, Sele. On the Daily Trust, we have Constitution Review. Reps Committee rejects state police. And investors to get 605 billion naira bond repayment as government expects FAAC payment today. Grazing law treats us as Benue indigents. MacBan charges autumn. And the big story, federal government approves 3 trillion naira for subsidy, warns of tough times ahead. We'll continue borrowing to augment price. And this is coming from the presidency. Finance minister give conflicting figures. Reps probe daily fuel consumption and refineries, while NNPC spent 12.5 trillion naira in 16 years. NEDC to spend $6.7 billion in Northeast. Jonathan's cousin kidnapped in Bayelsa. Protest as container terminal over agent's death. And on 2023, Saraki Okorocha joins presidential race. Details can be found in page 12 of the Daily Trust newspaper, and that's all on the Daily Trust.
All right, moving on now to Daily Sun. Igbo set to fight for 2023 presidency. This is coming from Ohaneze, with the writer warns that sidelining Southeast political adventurism. The big story here, 2023 presidency, APC rolls out zoning, with the rider presidential ticket not zoned to any region, says party chairman. This is Buni. North has no candidate, says the ACF. Other stories still here, Ekiti PDP primary, police confirm arrest of 105 suspected thugs. 2022, NNPC proposes 3 trillion naira subsidy. Nigeria may face dearth of policemen in future, ex-IGF Smith warns. 2023, Saraki Okorocha joined presidential race. Other stories still here, Rivers flood federal government over police trust fund deduction. With the rider, court stops further deduction, orders reform to state. It's a victory for democracy, says Wiki. Other story here, UK resumes priority visa for work and study. Detail of that story can be found on page 27 of the Daily Sun newspaper. Moving on now to the next one, Tosi.
Nigerian News Direct, Ogun to construct new sets of road, approves 42.7 kilometer network across states. EFCC, Nigerian Air Force Institute of Technology Science Training MOU, and Strategic Engagement Tour, Ikire, Apomu, Bongon, Agog for Oyetola. The big story, 1.2 trillion naira MDAs unremitted revenues in bank. This is coming from the reps. Uncover 45.85 million banks account without BVN. And still on subsidy removal reversal, long queues resurface in Abuja as NNPC assures of sufficient fuel. If we have sufficient fuel, then why do we have the long queues? We sell it to this, we sell it to the users of this fuel, so that we can avoid those long queues in places like this, because they are major roads that link to other places. We should sell this fuel. We should not hoard this fuel, because we have the issues where filling stations try to hoard this fuel, but it should be sold to motorists. It should be sold to those that are in need of it, so that we should avoid all those long queues, because having all those long queues in filling stations, they are not achievements to the country. It's not achievement even to the state. Fuel should be sold for people that are using it, because having all these things, that's where you see increase even in transport fares, because we had issue where we had this lack of fuel in Plateau State, where even when you want to board tricycle, they tell you that there is no fuel in the state, so they try to increase the transport fare. You see that it's even bouncing back on to the common man. It's bouncing back to Nigerians. So if there's availability of fuel, it should be sold out to those people to avoid all those long queues, because with all this long queue, you can see issues where people try to plant bomb in one place or the other, and you see that when it explodes, people's life will just waste just like that. So if you have this fuel, it should be sold out to motorists. Senate summons NLNG over 73 communities land acquisition compensation controversy. And we have two picture stories on the front page of the Nigerian News Direct. Do well to visit it to look out for stories that interest you.
Yes, moving on now to the Nation newspaper. First story here, we'll take it the big story. Government to fund petrol subsidy with 3 trillion naira in 1 year. Other stories still on the paper. 2023, Saraki Okorocha to seek presidential ticket. Fire Chairman Kolawale in Ekiti PDP candidate. APC adopt direct primary to pick Ekiti candidate, with the rider 183,000 to vote at Watts. Other stories still on the paper. Akire Dodo alleges compromise of Ondo payroll. And then still on the paper, we have Sanwo-Olu will deliver Opedi Ojota bridge next year. And just like I said, when you make a bridge, it's not an accomplishment to you. It's actually a basic need for the masses. So you should try and make things available. And that is all from the Nation newspaper.
Moving to Vanguard newspaper, reps probe on claimed trillion of naira in commercial banks, and 105 Ekiti-bound thugs arrested by soldiers. Federal government revenue shortfall put at 1.9 trillion naira in 11 months. And Rivers floors federal government over police trust fund deduction, as court declares deduction from federation account unconstitutional. It's victory for democracy, coming from Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike. And on governorship, BC Kolawole wins Ekiti PDP primaries. Abandoned aircraft, Amichi's allies fault Wike's claim. Let's battle subsidy on truth together. Governors woes Labour. The riders kick against removal of subsidy until what federal government telling the country is confronted frontally. Alleges only 8 states benefiting directly from subsidy. Notes lacuna in subsidy removal agenda hidden in untruth. Suspension of fuel subsidy removal will result in more borrowings, coming from the presidency, says subsidy removal not for 2023 election. Reps weighed in, set up committees to probe current status, amount paid by government, state of refineries. NNPC presents 3 trillion naira subsidy bill for 2022 to FEC. Council okays amendment to 2022 Appropriation Act. PDP in tight corners, Wike, Udom, Anyim insist on Southern president's candidates. And still on Twitter, federal government moves to apply operational conditions to other platforms. UK resumes visa application processing in Nigeria. And on Hanifa, another girl murdered in Kano. You can see this is really a sad issue, because we are still on issue of Hanifa that was murdered by her proprietor, and we still have another issue where another girl again is murdered in Kano State. Something needs to be done. The justice should take its right place. This is not time for us to cover up justice. Justice should take its right place, because all these things are happening and nothing is being done about all those culprits. That's why you see that they have this boldness and the effrontery to keep on going into this act. Something needs to be done about it, because we need to say no to all this death. You can see death of children, death of men, death of women. People are just dying as a result of people quest to make money. People's quest for greed, just to acquire everything for themselves. Something needs to be done. The justice system need to wake up and give out justice to whoever deserves it.
That's what I always say. Sorry to cut you. That's what I always say. I said people are sick. Lots of people need to visit a mental hospital so you check your mental health. Some of these people go through some psychological trauma, and this is the end result, when they don't have mercy on lives of people. So I think we really need to check ourselves so that we don't fall into issues like this.
Yes, hello. That's all for Vanguard.
All right, now let me just take the last paper for today, which is a Business Day newspaper. And the big story here says hospitals struggle to retain staff amid migration tsunami. Next story, how Nigeria can case subsidy removal pain. And I think this is really something as a country we really need to look into it so that we can reduce the pain of the subsidy on our nation. Other story, next generation batteries get wet in dollar rains. Despite high oil price, Nigeria cost of borrowing spiked to highest level in 15 months. And just like we've been talking about the first subsidy, I think we cannot overemphasize the importance that we need to look at what we can do as a nation. How can things become better for us? Fix the road, make sure there's food, make sure everything is in circulation. It's one thing to say there's food, it's another thing for it to be affordable to the common man. When we say there's food and then the common man cannot buy, it still tells when the fuel is high, things will be high, even food commodities will be high. There was a time where onions was even scarce in the market, you know, just a very little thing, vegetables that you're supposed to get at a very cheap price is going to be high. So really, we really need to look into things like this if we want to grow as a nation. I think we need to see what we can do to fix this country. It's not about passing the blame to the next administration. No, I always say I don't stand for any party, but I stand for the truth, because we are all activists in this country. You have to be an active citizen if you really want to live well. So when we see things are not going well, we should point them out and express ourselves well, because we have freedom of speech. So we should express ourselves well, and it's something, because our government cannot be everywhere. We point out this is what is not happening. We have representatives. It is their job to speak on our behalf. So I think it's the right thing we need to do in this nation. We need to move forward. All right, and that is all from the Business Day newspaper. So Tosi, before I round up, is there any story that have been of interest to you? Because I think especially the killing that we've been having on papers, you know, talks, looking at the eve of election, and lots of things that have been happening in the nation.
Yes, the story of the governors putting their hands together to say no to issue of fuel subsidy removal, because if fuel subsidy should be removed, then the right things should be put at the right places to make life and living very conducive for people. Because once fuel subsidy is being removed, people should not suffer the consequence and the aftermath. Make everything appropriate, make everything available for everybody, for the common man, before we can have this fuel subsidy being removed. And also the idea of refineries, having refineries in our country, is something we need to look into, because it will really help us as a nation.
Exactly, and that's all we can take for the show today. There was no phone call, but we hope that tomorrow we can hear more phone calls and then your contribution on it. And that's how far we can go today. Make sure you keep a date with us again tomorrow and other of our programs that shall be coming up your way right after the dailies. Until we come your way again, remain blessed.